Welcome back, everyone, to Terror and Urban Myths. Glad to have you back with us. As always, we've got a pretty chilling tale lined up for you today.
Yeah, today we're headed down to the heart of Costa Rica, where the landscape hides a pretty dark folklore tradition.
That's right. We're taking a look at the legend of El Chingo, a story that really drives home the importance of respecting traditions and the dangers of letting pride get the better of you.
El Chingo, or sometimes the Chingo Negro, is a pretty striking image in your head when you first hear about him. This is a giant black bull, no tail, glowing bloodshot eyes.
Yeah, it's a scary thought. And the thing is, he's not just something out of a storybook. He's said to actually roam the hills and towns of Costa Rica.
Exactly. And what makes him even more terrifying is that he's supposed to be totally untamable. Anyone who's tried to capture him has met with some pretty bad consequences, sometimes fatal even.
Almost makes you think there's something supernatural at play there.
Well, that is a pretty key part of the legend. Some people believe that El Chingo isn't just a wild animal, but something more sinister, maybe even demonic. And that just adds another layer of fear to the whole thing.
Yeah, it's that fear of the unknown that really gets to you. And the most famous story about El Chingo happens on a very specific day, Good Friday.
Good Friday, as you know, is a day when Christians commemorate the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. It holds a lot of religious weight. So when you put it in the context of this legend, it really highlights the sense of going against tradition.
For sure. The story takes place on this old hacienda in Guanacaste, which is known for its big open plains and cattle ranching. It's about a foreman who's in charge of all the sabaneros, the horsemen who work the land.
And these sabaneros, being so connected to the land and traditions, would have definitely known about the legends of El Chingo. I mean, that must have made it even scarier for them.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. Despite the fact that it's Good Friday, this foreman, he's all about his ambition, and he doesn't care too much for tradition. So he orders his men to keep working. Like, he's completely ignoring the holy day, and, well, that sets the scene for a pretty terrifying encounter.
It really does. As dusk starts to fall on the hacienda and the shadows are getting longer, El Chingo makes his grand entrance out of the darkness, just a huge, terrifying shape against the fading light.
Imagine being there on that hacienda sun's setting, and this creature just comes out of nowhere. How would you feel?
I think the Sabaneros, knowing all the stories and legends, they must have been terrified. I mean, these are guys who work with cattle all the time, so they knew how dangerous this could be.
But the foreman, he's blinded by pride and arrogance. He doesn't even acknowledge the danger. Instead of respecting the day and the warnings that are basically built into the legend, he tells his men to capture El Chingo.
That's a classic case of humans thinking they can control things that are way bigger than them. He completely underestimates the power of what he's dealing with.
Yeah, and of course the Sabaneros, they're terrified, but they try to do what he says, but every attempt fails.
El Chingo's untamable. He's a force of nature that humans can't control. It's like a symbol of how pointless it is to try and dominate nature.
Yeah, but the foreman, he's furious. He can't accept defeat. He needs to show he's in charge, so he decides to do it himself.
What do you think makes someone act like that? Pure arrogance? Or is there something more to it? Like a need to prove he's in control even though everything's falling apart?
That's a good question. Maybe it's a bit of both. Anyway, he decides he's going to capture El Chingo, even if it takes forever.
Well, forever's a long time. And that's kind of his punishment for being so arrogant and disrespectful.
Exactly. He gets on his horse, his dog's barking like crazy, and he rides off into the darkness, disappears into the plains of Guanacaste.
And that's it. No one ever sees him again.
Just gone, vanished, swallowed up by the legend he thought he could conquer.
It's a reminder that some things are just too powerful to mess with. There are consequences for disrespecting traditions and pushing your luck.
But the story doesn't end there. The legend goes that every Good Friday at 3 in the afternoon, you can see a ghost rider on those plains, chased by the sound of El Chingo bellowing.
The foreman forever chasing the beast he wanted to capture, a ghost of his own arrogance and disrespect.
It's an image that stays with you. The foreman's fate is like a warning, a lesson woven into the fabric of Costa Rican folklore.
It really is. And it shows just how powerful these beliefs can be, how these stories that get passed down shape our understanding of the world and our place in it.
It makes you wonder what other lessons are hidden in these legends just waiting to be discovered.
Makes you wonder, yeah. And you know, the legend of El Chingo is pretty fascinating on its own, but it's not the only one. Like, there are a lot of other stories in Costa Rican folklore that give you a glimpse into what people were worried about, what they believed in, you know, all that.
I see what you mean. It's like these stories aren't just for fun. They kind of reflect the hopes and fears of the community.
Exactly. And one story that does this really well is the legend of the Carreta Sin Bueyes, the cart without oxen.
Oh, yeah. The Carreta Sin Bueyes, classic ghost story. What's it all about, for those who haven't heard it before?
Okay, so picture this. You're walking alone on a deserted street late at night, crickets chirping, leaves rustling. Then you hear this heavy cart coming towards you. But something's not right. There are no oxen pulling it, no driver.
That's creepy. A driverless cart in the middle of the night. It's enough to give you goosebumps.
And the story knows that this cart isn't just some random thing. It's being driven by a ghost, maybe a witch, or even the devil himself.
So it's not just a cart without oxen. It's like a supernatural taxi service. What's the point of it all?
Well, people say the terrorizes shows up for a few different reasons. Usually it's a warning to people who are living a bad life, doing shady things.
Like a cosmic reminder to stay in line.
Yeah, some people think it appears where someone greedy or dishonest has died, or where couples are always fighting, or young people are being reckless.
Supernatural morality police.
Yeah.
Making sure everyone behaves.
Exactly. It's like this chilling reminder that what you do matters, and there might be consequences even after you're gone.
And what about the people who don't listen to the warnings of the terrorizes? Anything bad happen to them?
Some versions of the legend say that the cart isn't always empty. Sometimes it's carrying the bodies of the people who didn't listen to the warnings. Their souls are trapped forever.
That's a scary thought. It really makes you think about the consequences of ignoring the message.
It does. And it shows that even though these stories seem like fantasy, there's often a deeper truth to them. Lessons about right and wrong and the choices we make.
Right. So we've got El Chingo, who's all about vengeance, and the terrorizes with its ghostly warnings. Are there any other interesting characters in Costa Rican folklore?
Oh, yeah. There are plenty. And one that really stands out is the Dueño del Monte, the owner of the mountain.
The owner of the mountain. Yeah, he's a fascinating one. He seems different from El Chingo and the terrorizes, more like a protector than anything else.
Exactly. He's not about punishment or fear. He's about looking after things and keeping a balance.
So who is this Dueño del Monte? What's his story?
The legend says he was a hunter obsessed with killing animals. He didn't care about the forest or the balance of nature, just took what he wanted.
Like the worst side of humanity?
Yeah.
Exploiting nature without thinking of the consequences?
I think that's a good way to put it. And as the legend goes, he was punished for what he did. When he died, he became the Dueño del Monte.
So it's like he has to protect the very thing he destroyed.
Yeah. He's in charge of looking after the animals he used to hunt and defending the mountains from anyone who wants to harm them.
From hunter to protector. That's quite a change. It's like a reminder that everything's connected.
And his transformation isn't just symbolic either. He's got real power. He can control animals, even make them change into dangerous creatures to scare off threats.
So like a tiny harmless squirrel could turn into a jaguar. Wow. That's amazing. It's like you can channel the power of nature itself.
Exactly. And he can control the weather too. Summon storms or fog to mess with hunters who come into his territory with bad intention.
It's like the legend has an environmental message built into it. Respect nature or face the consequences.
Yeah.
The Dueño del Monte is both a guardian and a warning.
That's right. And it reminds us that humans aren't separate from nature. We're part of it. What we do has an impact, and the Dueño del Monte is there to remind us of that.
It's a scary thought, but also kind of hopeful. It suggests that even if you've done bad things to nature, you can still be redeemed. There's always a chance to change things and restore the balance.
I agree. It shows how resilient nature can be. It can heal and rebuild even after being damaged.
Okay, so we've got El Chingo, the vengeful spirit, the terrorizes with its warnings, and the Dueño del Monte, the protector. What else is there in the world of Costa Rican folklore?
There are tons. Costa Rican folklore is full of supernatural stories, and each one gives you a different perspective on how the culture sees the world. And one figure that really stands out is the Mona del Vaso, the nun with the glass. She's interesting because she's both revered and feared.
The nun with the glass. I don't think I've heard of that one. What's her story?
Well, her legend haunts the San Juan de Dios Hospital, the oldest hospital in Costa Rica. Imagine those dark hallways, the smell of antiseptic, and then you see a ghost nun walking around carrying a glass of water. She offers it to the patients.
A nun with water? That doesn't sound too scary. What's the catch?
It's all about her past. When she was alive, she refused to give a dying patient a glass of water. Just a simple act of kindness, and she wouldn't do it. And that's what sealed her fate.
So now she has to wander the hospital forever offering water to the sick. A constant reminder of what she did.
Exactly. It's like she's being punished for her cruelty, but also maybe trying to make up for it.
Is there any way for her to break free from this?
The legend says that if you accept the water from her, you'll be healed. But most people are too scared to even go near her.
That's interesting. So even in death, there's a chance for redemption. But you have to have faith. It's like a test. Can you overcome your fear and believe in the possibility of healing?
That's a good way to look at it. And it shows how these legends deal with complicated ideas, like guilt and making things right, and how our actions can have consequences even after we're gone.
It's a reminder that being kind, especially to people who need help, is really important. What we do matters, and sometimes those actions stay with us even after we're gone.
I agree. And it's interesting that the Maja del Basso is connected to a hospital, a place where people are vulnerable and where life and death are always present. It just makes the story even more powerful.
Yeah, hospitals can be scary places. The thought of a ghost nun wandering around just adds to that fear.
It shows how these legends can tap into our deepest fears and anxieties. They give shape to the things that scare us.
So we've talked about vengeful spirits, protectors, ghostly warnings, and a nun looking for redemption. Seems like Costa Rican folklore has it all. What else is there?
One more group that's important to Costa Rican mythology. Not your typical witches, though. These are different. They're called the Brujas Sarandi.
The Sarandi witches. I've heard of them, but I don't know much. What makes them special?
They're healers, wise women, keepers of ancient knowledge. People respect them in their communities and go to them for advice and help connecting with the spiritual world.
So they're not evil.
Not always. They represent a different kind of power, one that's more connected to nature and the balance of life and death. But like all powerful beings, they have a dark side too.
So they can be good or bad. It depends.
Exactly. And the most famous Sarandi witch is La Vieja Zarate, or Mama Zarate. She's the most powerful of them all.
She sounds pretty intense. What can she do?
She can do amazing things. Heal people, help those in need, even turn vegetables into gold. Yeah. She protects the people she thinks deserve it, but she can also be a dangerous enemy.
So you don't want to mess with her.
There's a story about how a Spanish conquistador rejected her love, and she was so angry that she turned him into a peacock, a symbol of his cruelty and pride.
Wow, that's harsh. It sounds like the Sarandi witches, especially La Vieja Zarate, have a lot of power. They can be kind and helpful, but also get revenge if they need to.
That's right. They show the two sides of nature capable of great good and terrible destruction. They're a reminder that magic and the supernatural are fascinating, but also dangerous.
This has been a fascinating journey into the world of Costa Rican folklore. Vengeful spirits, protectors, ghostly warnings, and powerful witches. These legends show us what a culture believes in, what it fears, and what it hopes for.
Exactly. And they remind us that stories are powerful. They shape how we see the world, help us explore the unknown, and deal with the complicated parts of being human.
These stories have been passed down for generations. They connect us to something bigger than ourselves. They help us find meaning in a world full of mystery and wonder. And if you enjoyed exploring Costa Rican folklore with us, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more stories and cultural insights.
And if you like this episode, please give it a like and share it with anyone who enjoys a good scare and a little bit of cultural exploration.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the stories alive.